Hey, everybody, welcome back to another allcounselors.com webinar. I've got a great guest today that's going to be presenting on a key subject. And I know a lot of you counselors and clinicians, therapists ask all the time when you're thinking about starting your own private practice. So she's going to be talking about incorporating a business, giving you an overview of all that. If you have questions along the way, hit the Q&A button and we'll try to get to those if we have time. But first, I want to introduce Nellie. Nellie is a passionate entrepreneur, business expert, and mother of four. She is the CEO of CorpNet.com, a trusted resource and service provider for business incorporation, LLC filings, and corporate compliance services in all 50 states. Nellie and her team recently launched a partner program for accountants, lawyers, business professionals to help them streamline the business incorporation and compliance process for their clients. So you can go to CorpNet.com. They've got fantastic services that will help take you through the process. She's going to share about corporate structures related to clinicians. Excellent service. I'll tell you, I was looking on the site and I'll be putting a link here in a second to, you've got this, your team's got this amazing, what's it called? It's basically a walkthrough, kind of guides you what structure you might need. I'll put that in the chat as soon as I find the link to that. And also we'll have that in the show notes for later on. But Nellie, thank you so much for being here today and presenting on this vital subject to our counselor tribe and community. And I know they're going to learn a lot of stuff and get some great thoughts about how they can incorporate and the structures and all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Cory. It's such a pleasure and an honor. I'm humbled. Thank you so much for all of you listening out there. My name is Nellie Akalp. I'll be your webinar presenter today. I have an amazing passion for health and wellness and recovery. I'm an entrepreneur who's just like Cory, really invested in really leading a life filled with courage, compassion, and connection. And I think mental health is a part of it, a huge part of it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be surviving. And, thank God for all of you who are in business providing mental health. What a great business to be in. And we're going to get you all the tools, all the information, everything you need to take your business to the next level. So without further ado, I want to get into the presentation. Today, we're going to be discussing the importance of incorporating a business and providing you a refresher course on the different types of business entities out there. A little bit about myself. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been incorporating and helping professionals like yourself, entrepreneurs, business owners, CPAs, any type of professional or entrepreneur, getting them started with legalizing their business, expanding their business, taking their business to the next level. Together with my company, CorpNet, we can provide business incorporation, LLC filings, any type of business compliance, business expansion, payroll and sales tax registration to for yourself or for your clients, even in all 50 states. And business incorporation, in my opinion, is one of really the foundations of starting a business and making sure your business is started up properly, so that you can expand your business, having that peace of mind that, God forbid, if you end up on the wrong end of a lawsuit, you are protected from personal, liability. And if you have any type of assets, your assets are protected. So let's talk about, why it's so important for you as a professional, for you as a counselor, to think about placing your business into a legal entity that's going to be protecting you, protecting your assets, and protecting you from liability. In addition, why it's so important to become a corporation or LLC to give your clients that are dealing with you that peace of mind that you're an established business. So by default, many business owners even business owners that are providing services in the area of mental health operate as a sole proprietor or general partnership. Sole proprietor is basically a person operating under their own name or under a fictitious business name. Similarly, a partnership is two or more people operating under their own name or under a fictitious business name. And with a sole proprietorship or general partnership, there is no liability protection. There is no asset protection. So you are the business. If you're, in a partnership with another business owner, you and your partner are in a business, which means there is no corporate veil, there is no liability protection. And if somebody comes and sues you for providing them subpar services, they can potentially come after you personally, your house, your car, your savings account, your retirement. So hence, being a sole proprietorship or a general partnership, although it has its perks of being very simple to form and simple to manage, there's a lot of downside to that, in that there is no corporate veil, there is no liability or asset protection. So although it's a simple option for people starting out, there are many advantages of why someone would want to incorporate their business, place their business into a corporation or an LLC. And first and foremost, the first benefit is actually liability protection of your personal assets. As a corporation or LLC, you're creating a bubble. So think of yourself as the business owner inside of this bubble, this veil, so that when, God forbid, you as a corporation or LLC are being sued by somebody who you've provided services to, they cannot go after you as the owner of that corporation or LLC personally, because there's a corporate veil, there is a corporate shield around you. So the first and foremost benefit of considering incorporating or placing your business into a corporation or an LLC is liability protection of your personal assets. If somebody sues you, if you're a corporation or LLC, they cannot go after you personally, as long as that corporation or LLC is being complied with and being operated in accordance with the state laws. That corporation or LLC is protecting its shareholders, its members, from being personally liable. So if there's a judgment entered against that corporation or LLC, they can go only to the extent that the corporation or LLC has assets. They cannot go personally against the shareholders of that corporation or the members of that LLC. So that's the first and foremost benefit. Second benefit is separation of, it's a separate legal entity. The corporation or the LLC once formed, it's separate from that business owner. It's a separate legal entity. So that business owner, although a shareholder of that corporation or LLC, although a member of that LLC, is separate from the business. So again, there's a separation. And this corporation or LLC, when it's formed, the shareholders and members are within that business entity, but there's a veil around it. There's a veil, a shield, in that it shields that shareholder, it shields the owners from being personally liable. Next benefit is added credibility. By having the INC or LLC next to your business name, you're giving the public notice that you are an established business. You're more likely to want to have clients deal with you because they're looking at you as more of a credible business, of a more established business. They've seen you taking the steps of legalizing your business. Another benefit is that with a corporation or LLC, there's perpetual existence, meaning that if one of the shareholders or members of that LLC pass on, the corporation or LLC still continues on unless it's formally and properly dissolved. Lastly, there is also tax flexibility as a benefit of placing a business into a corporation or LLC. A lot of tax flexibility as to how the LLC or the corporation can be taxed. And Lastly, deductible expenses. As a corporation or LLC, you are able to deduct expenses that you would otherwise not be able to deduct as a proprietor or a partnership. With that said, I want to take you through a little refresher course of the different types of popular business entity choices. And the popular business entity choices are obviously, as we discussed, a sole proprietorship or partnership, a C corporation, S corporation, or an LLC. The thing that's not on this graph is also a professional corporation or a professional LLC, which is really a C corporation, but when we call it a professional corporation, it's really a C corporation designed for professionals, such as people like yourself that have to be licensed from the state board. A professional corporation in all other aspects is a corporation, but it's really for somebody who's a professional providing a professional type of service that's required to have a license from the state board. Similarly, a professional LLC is simply the same thing as an LLC in all other respects, except for, again, in many states, professional LLCs are recognized, and it's for a professional in the practice of a profession that requires a license to be issued by the state board. So let's start with the sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorship partnerships are the most simplest type of entity out there. They're simple to form and maintain. There's really no financial statements or lengthy paperwork to stay compliant. So basically, here's what a sole proprietorship is. It's me, Nellie Akalp, okay, wanting to do business either under my own name as a consultant, or let's say I want to get really creative and let's say I want to provide services under NRA Consulting Services, okay? However, I don't want to incorporate, I don't want to form an LLC. If I'm doing business under NRA, which is my initials of my name, NRA Consulting Services, because people are going to be writing me a check to NRA Consulting Services, the bank is not going to accept it if I just have the bank account under Nellie Akalp. In order for me to be able to deposit checks under NRA Consulting Services, I need to file what is called a DBA, or doing business as filing, also called a fictitious business name. So a sole proprietorship is basically someone doing business under their own name or under a fictitious business name. There's no separation of personal or business assets. You are the owner, you are the business, and you are liable for any acts of the business, whether right or wrong. One of the disadvantages of being a sole proprietor or partnership is the fact that you cannot really gain business credit, take out business loans, or raise capital unless you personally guarantee those types of applications. So where the fictitious business name or the DBA filing comes in is the fact that as a sole proprietorship, you can start doing business under your own name and start accepting funds for those services that you provide. And if they're writing a check out to you, you can automatically deposit it into your bank account. And then at the end of the year, you'll have to report the income you received as a result of providing those services on the Schedule C of your personal income tax returns. However, if you wanted to start accepting payments and checks under a different name other than your name, you would have to go file what is called a fictitious business name filing, also referred to as a doing business as filing, with the county recorder's office in your state. And the reason why is because when you accept a check under a different name other than your own name as a sole proprietor or partnership, the bank is not going to let you deposit that check. They're going to ask you for that fictitious business name statement. So the sole proprietorship, if that business is being formed and if it's being formed to provide a service under a different name other than that proprietor's name, a fictitious business name filing is required. You need to file it with the state or the county recorder's office in the state you're located in. Once it's filed, you take it to your bank, you file that fictitious business name with your bank, and then you can start accepting checks and payments under that fictitious business name. This is whether you're one person, i.e. sole proprietor, or multiple people as a partnership conducting business where you're not wanting to be a corporation or LLC. Again, as a sole proprietor or partnership, there is no asset protection, there is no liability protection, there is no corporate veil, which means, God forbid, if you get sued, they can come after you personally, go after your car, your house, your savings account, whatever you have. That is why it's so important in light of how easy it is these days to consider, no matter how small you are, to incorporate or form an LLC. Moving on to the C corporation. The C corporation is the most formal type of business entity there is when it comes to placing your business into some sort of a corporate shield, okay? A C corporation provides you with the maximum level of liability protection, asset protection. Typically, with a corporation, the owners of the corporation are the shareholders. The shareholders elect a board of directors who run the corporation, who in turn elect officers who run the day-to-day business of that corporation. With a C corporation, the owners are often shielded from personal liability. With a C corporation, a general C corporation is often subject to double taxation. What does that mean? Double taxation means when the corporation produces profits, it's once taxed at the corporate level. And then once the corporation pays out a distribution or dividends to each of the shareholders are again taxed again on the individual level, thereby the concept of double taxation. Now, with a C corporation, I don't recommend this for a small business owner because of the fact that there is double taxation. And with the S corporation coming into play, and if you're a business owner who can qualify as an S corp, there's no need for you to pay that double taxation. However, for those who don't qualify as an S corp, after the passage of the Jobs Act, C corps are now taxed at a flat percentage of 21%, which is substantially lower than the 35% that used to be the tax rate prior to the passage of the Jobs Act. So with the C corporation, highest form of legal protection, liability protection, most formal type of entity out there, lots of administrative paperwork, lots of compliance paperwork, typically not ideal for a small business unless you have a roadmap, unless you are thinking of being acquired, unless you're thinking of seeking VC funding or going public, okay? Next is the S corporation. Now, there is a very, very, very big myth out there that people think that an S corporation is a type of business entity. An S corporation is simply a C corporation that elects pass-through taxation by the IRS. So an S corporation is really a C corporation that files a form with the IRS, if they qualify, to be treated as an S corp, as a pass-through tax entity in the eyes of the IRS. Okay, so an S corp, it's not a type of business entity. It's really a tax designation that's given to a C corporation that's been formed. So generally, why would people want to form an S corporation? Well, a C corporation would want to elect S corp status to avoid being taxed twice. So what an S corporation does, the benefit of an S corporation is that it allows that C corporation to become a pass-through tax entity in the eyes of the IRS, thereby avoiding double taxation. So there are strict requirements as to who can qualify to become an S corp. However, if you meet those requirements, that C corporation is now recognized as a pass-through tax entity whereby all the profits and losses are flown through and taxed once on the individual shareholders level. As I mentioned, there are strict requirements as to who can qualify to become an S Corp. First and foremost, you can only have up to 100 shareholders. All the shareholders must be resident aliens or US citizens. That election has to be made within 75 business days of the corporation or LLC coming into existence. And you can only have one type of stock. However, if you meet those qualifications, the S Corp is great for a small business owner because you're not paying that double taxation that otherwise a C corporation would have to pay. In all other aspects, the S corporation is ran just like a C corporation. It's owned by the shareholders, it's run by the board of directors and the officers. And as far as corporate formalities go, again, heavy corporate formalities whereby you have to have the annual meetings of the shareholders and the board of directors and file annual meeting minutes and meet all the other compliance requirements that are often required by a corporation. Moving on to the LLC. The LLC stands for a limited liability company. Now, the way I like to characterize this entity is that you get to have your cake and eat it too. Why is that? Because the LLC combines elements of the sole proprietorship and a partnership with elements of a corporation. And the reason why I say this is the best type of entity whereby you can have your cake and eat it too is because of the fact that with an LLC, it's an entity that provides maximum liability protection, asset protection, but without all the corporate formalities and the paperwork that is often associated by being a corporation or an S corporation. So with an LLC, the single piece of document that controls the LLC is the operating agreement. So for somebody who wants to have that liability protection, asset protection, but does not want to deal with all the corporate formalities and paperwork, the LLC is the way to go because you get that liability protection, asset protection without all the complex maintenance and management and paperwork. Also with an LLC, it's very flexible for taxation. As an LLC by default, if you're a single member LLC, it's taxed as a sole proprietorship, whereas a multi-member LLC is taxed as a partnership. Thereby, by default, if it's taxed as a sole prop or partnership, you're likely to pay higher self-employment taxes. However, with an LLC, you can opt, whether you're a single member LLC or a multi-member LLC, to be taxed as an S corporation if you meet the requirements of that S corp requirement provided by the IRS. You can also opt to be taxed as a C corporation if you can't meet the qualifications of the S corp, but still want to avoid paying those higher self-employment taxes. You can opt to elect to have your LLC be taxed as a C corporation, place yourself as on payroll as a member of an LLC and draw a paycheck, which will likely lower your self-employment taxes. Because generally speaking, by default, a single member LLC taxed as a sole prop or multi-member LLC taxed as a partnership can't become an employee of the LLC. They can only take a draw. And as a result, by taking a draw, your higher likelihood of paying, higher self-employment taxes. So a way to get around this is, although you can have the foundation, the structure of that business be an LLC, you can get around it by electing S Corp or C Corp status. And by electing S Corp or C Corp status, you maintain the minimal formalities of the entity, but now as a member of an LLC, you can place yourself on payroll and draw a paycheck from the LLC. Now, owners of an LLC are referred to as members, whereas owners of a corporation are referred to as shareholders. And again, really the main difference between a corporation and the LLC is really flexibility in how you manage, how you tax, and less paperwork, less compliance, really, really easy to manage and run. Moving on, There is, as I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, what is called the professional limited liability company, also referred to as a PLLC. So in many states, if you're a professional, which your job requires professional licensing by your state, you're not legally allowed to just form an LLC. Instead, you have to form what is called a professional limited liability company, as long as it's recognized by your state. The rules and requirements for a professional LLC really vary from state to state. And if your state recognizes it, they recognize the professional LLC, you can form that professional LLC, but all the members of that PLLC have to hold the same license and they have to be practicing the same profession. With PLLCs, there are difficulties that are faced when it comes to continuing the business. For example, if one of the business owners leaves, or one of them passes on, the PLLC will automatically dissolve as long as the other members also hold that same professional license. But in all other respects, professional LLCs offer the same type of liability protection that an LLC offers. And they differ in the following areas. One, PLLC does not protect individual members from their own malpractice lawsuits. So you still have to carry malpractice insurance in a professional LLC. And also with a PLLC, some banks may require the members of that PLLC for personal guarantee in order to lend money to the PLLC. But again, in all other aspects, think of a professional LLC very much the same as an LLC when it comes to how it's run, how it's managed, how it's taxed, except the main difference here is that a professional LLC is really for a professional offering a professional type of service, such as a doctor, a lawyer, a chiropractor, an anesthesiologist, a psychiatrist, a psychologist. Some sort of profession that requires licensing from the state board. Similarly, there's something called a professional corporation. A professional corporation, again, is a corporation that's formed by professionals. So a professional corporation is for a professional who really wants that maximum level of protection. They don't really mind the paperwork, or if it's for someone who has no choice but to form a professional corporation because their state doesn't offer a PLLC or recognize PLLCs. Again, a professional corporation in all other aspects is very similar to a C corporation. Professional corporations can become S corporations as long as it satisfies the requirements of the S corporation. Really, the professional corporation is typically considered by the IRS as a corporation, and it's taxed as a C corporation. Again, the only difference is that with a professional corporation, the shareholders of that corporation are professionals offering a professional type of service, such as doctors, lawyers, psychiatrists, psychologists, anybody who needs to have a license from the state board in order to be providing that type of professional service. I've gone ahead in the next slide and really summarized all these, the different types of entities for you. And I've also summarized the type of initial filing requirements, the annual compliance filing requirements, and whether a registered agent is required for the type of entity that you would want to be considering to form for your practice. As you can see here with sole proprietorship, there's really no initial filings required. There's really no annual type of compliance filing requirements, and you're not required to have a registered agent. Whereas with a C corporation, you have initial filing requirements. In order for that C corporation to come into existence, there is something called an article of incorporation that must be drafted. In some states, an initial report is required after the articles of incorporation are filed with the state. Some states also require publication fees. There's also annual compliance requirements that are associated with forming a corporation and maintaining a corporation. Most states require an annual statement of information, also referred to as an annual report, to be filed with the state office. With a corporation, you have to have annual meetings and draft annual meeting minutes. And in any type of a business structure, whether it's a C Corp, S Corp, LLC, or PLLC, or a professional corporation, a registered agent is required. Now, what is a registered agent? When you form a corporation or LLC, you must designate a person which is over the age of majority in the state where the corporation is being formed to accept service of process on behalf of that corporation or LLC. Generally speaking, the registered agent has to be 18 years of age or older. They must be at that location physically between the normal business hours of 8 to 5, and that registered agent office has to be a physical business address. It cannot be a PO box or a private mailbox. A lot of people don't like designating themselves as a registered agent because it really refutes the whole idea of that layer of privacy that you're creating for yourself by becoming a corporation or LLC. So we here at CorpNet offer registered agent services in all 50 states, and we can act as your registered agent of record for any of the 50 states for your corporation or LLC. Now, here are questions to ask yourself when you're considering wanting to put your practice into a corporation or an LLC. You want to, number one, figure out, do I have any type of personal assets? Am I concerned with personal liability? Do I need to live off the business's profits each year? Do I want to keep paperwork and administration as simple as possible, or is it not really a big deal for me? And do I want to keep that business forever? When you ask these questions, it can really guide you to figuring out what type of business entity would be best for your practice, and also which will give you the best tax consequences at the end of the year. In addition, we have a great tool on our website, which is on the front page of our website, located at www.corpnet.com, which is our business structure wizard. It's been created by a team of attorneys and accountants, and it'll lead you to a series of questions about your business. And at the end of that wizard, you get to have the answer of which business entity is really recommended for you, which will give you maximized liability and asset protection in addition to the best tax savings. So again, check it out. It's called our Business Structured Wizard, and it's located on www.corpnet.com, and it will be posted in the notes here on this webinar as well. So now that we've kind of gone over the different types of business entities, the question becomes, okay, how do I get started? What are the steps to get started? Well, for those of you who want to really keep it super simple, you come to CorpNet and we take care of everything from A to Z for you. However, again, incorporating a business or forming an LLC is not something that has to be done by a lawyer and accountant. Your one option is to go to a reputable company such as our company, CorpNet. Another option is to do it yourself, okay? And then of course, the last option is to hire an attorney or an accountant. We recommend against the last option because it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. How do I know this? I'm an attorney myself. I used to practice law, and I used to charge each client upwards of $5,000 to form a corporation or LLC. And why I don't practice law and I'm not licensed, it's because of the fact that I feel, I wanted to become an entrepreneur, and I wanted to streamline the business startup process so that everyone can benefit from it. And we can offer a service, streamline it, and offer it at a fraction of a price that you would otherwise have to pay an attorney or an accountant to provide these services to you. So again, it's not something that you have to hire an attorney or an accountant. You don't have to hire CorpNet. You can do it yourself, but when you do it yourself, you run the risk of making a lot of errors, and also it becoming a little bit more time consuming for you. So what we recommend for you is to let a reputable company such as our company handle this for you, so that you can focus on doing what you do best, is providing mental health and recovery to your clients. So what are the steps to get started to incorporate a business? First and foremost, you want to make sure you're in compliance with licensing and zoning laws. You want to conduct a business name search to make sure that name is available in the state you're planning on incorporating your business or forming the LLC. Want to name a registered agent. Again, you can choose a commercial registered agent such as our company to act as the agent. You draft the articles of incorporation, you file those articles with the state, and then you write up corporate bylaws, apply and obtain for a federal tax ID number, and then you have a corporate record book where you maintain all the corporate records and corporate minutes to keep that corporation or LLC in compliance throughout the life cycle of that corporation or LLC. And then you want to make sure you stay compliant annually by filing all the necessary paperwork with the state on an annual basis, and especially as a corporation or LLC. Even if you're a single person LLC, you have to have annual meetings, and you have to make sure you draft your annual meeting minutes. Again, a service that can be utilized and is offered by CorpNet. Similarly, the steps to forming a limited liability company, very similar to a corporation. I have listed it here. Again, choose a name, file articles of incorporation, choose an agent for service of process, apply for the tax ID number, stay compliant. Now, a lot of you may be asking, well, what is a federal tax ID number? A federal tax ID number is basically the social security number for that corporation or LLC. Because the corporation or LLC is a separate legal entity, it's like giving birth to a baby. So when that corporation or LLC comes into existence, it's like giving birth to a child. So when you give birth to a child, they're assigned a social security number. Similarly, when you bring a corporation or LLC into existence, you have to assign what is called a federal tax ID number to that corporation or LLC, because that's how the IRS identifies the transactions that are run through the corporation or LLC. Now, when that corporation or LLC is formed, if you're a shareholder in a corporation that meets the requirements of the S corporation election status, after that corporation or LLC is formed and you decide you want that corporation or LLC taxed as an S corp, you have to take another step to elect S corporation tax status with the IRS. So businesses that are first incorporated as a C corporation or have filed as an LLC have to file IRS form, IRS form 2553 with the IRS in order to elect S corporation status. Now, if you're an LLC, again, if you want to be taxed as an S corp, you file form 2553. However, if you're an LLC that does not qualify as an S corporation, but you want to opt to be a C corp, then that LLC files form 8832. Again, if you have questions about this, you can post it in the chat. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you, or simply go to www.corpnet.com. We have live agents standing by where they can answer your questions. You can simply email us to info@corpnet.com, or simply come on to the site and there is a live chat expert that can answer any of your questions. Now, we have some helpful resources for you if you have any questions, because I'm sure, I had to go ahead and cram all this information into an hour. So I'm sure there's a lot of questions that you may have. again, simply reach out to us at www.corpnet.com. You can send us an email to info@corpnet.com, or simply pick up the phone at simply pick up the phone at 1-888-449-2638. Again, we provide a plethora of resources, a lot of content. We have an amazing blog that I write on at least 3 times a week with anything and everything that goes through the life cycle of starting a business, managing a business, expanding a business, all the way down to winding down the business and closing down the business. Some helpful resources and tools for you that you should be aware of. We have our business name search tool. So if you're thinking about, a name for your corporation or LLC, right on the homepage of our website, we have a business name search tool, which you can check that name for availability to see if it could be utilized as a corporation or LLC. We also have a trademark search tool that you can utilize to see if that name is available in all 50 states, and if you can have and gain federal trademark protection rights to that name. We also have our business structure wizard, which is a great tool for you if you're not sure about what type of business structure you want to form, whether you want to be a corporation or LLC. We've put one of the highlights of that business structure wizard here for you. But the wizard is great because it takes you through a series of questions specifically related to your business, and it then recommends a business structure for your particular business. We also have a great compliance portal, which Cory was very excited about, because as a business owner, when you form a corporation or LLC, you often think your job is done. But as a corporation or LLC, there's a lot of compliance formalities that go along with maintaining a corporation or LLC. And our compliance portal is free of charge, and it helps keep you on your toes by providing you with monitoring alerts and proactive alerts to make sure your corporation or LLC is in compliance. Again, it's free of charge. You don't even have to use our services. And if you're already a corporation or LLC, you can sign up for our corporate compliance portal and start receiving alerts, and we'll monitor that corporation or LLC for you. We also have a meeting minutes template and annual meeting minutes service where we can help you with drafting annual meeting minutes for you if you're a corporation. We have plenty of guides and business checklists for you. And then we have an amazing blog that we post timely blog posts and news on there for you. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and thank you guys for the opportunity to present. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. It's been wonderful presenting to you guys. Feel free to check us out at www.corpnet.com. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, Cory, if you want to go ahead and open up for some Q&As or whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah, if you have any questions, post those in the Q&A app. I'm going to say a big thank you to Nellie Akalp, founder, CEO of corpnet.com. I put bunches of these links in there into the chat, and they'll be in the notes underneath the recording for this if you're watching this at a later time. From the business structure wizard, which is awesome because you gave us this fantastic overview. Now I can go through and actually, answer the questions on the wizard. The compliance thing, Nellie, I need to sign up today. If I had done CorpNet for several of my businesses, I wouldn't have to worry. And then I've been the one that has been not compliant and had to. When I sold my software business a couple of years ago, we were getting all of our due diligence, going through that, and go, oh, I need to go do my compliance. Like I'm out of compliance. So that is such a fantastic thing. I'm going to be signing up today personally, and I put a link to that in the chat here for everybody. But while you have questions, I'm wondering, Nellie, so tell me a little bit about CorpNet and how you got started.
Oh, thank you. So I've been in this industry for, since 1997. My husband and I met in college, and we decided we had similar passions of wanting to go to law school. And we went to law school and we thought, okay, we're going to both become lawyers. I really wanted to become a trial lawyer. And then in our last year of law school, we really realized that, the entry level salary for what a entry level lawyer would make is not going to be really sufficient for the lifestyle we envision for ourselves. We both come from very dysfunctional families. We're both in recovery, very, very, very grateful to be in recovery. And, we love this community, because we believe in mental health. We love mental health. And we wanted to have a big family. We're both only children. So coming from that background, and envisioning having a large family, because I am a mother of 4, it wasn't, working, in a law firm wasn't really gonna, provide us with that lifestyle that we envisioned. So back in 1997, the internet was ripe, and the internet was really, coming on, and it was the birth of the internet. So starting businesses for people on the internet was a really hot topic. So we decided to put up a one-page website and, launch our first company. That company soon, really grew, really fast. And fast forward to 2005, we sold that company to a publicly traded company, Intuit, and then took some time off and started all over again with CorpNet in 2009. And CorpNet has just been such an amazing blessing. My kids are a lot older now. My twins are 20. So my daughter works for the company. She's actually one of our top sales experts. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to Nadia Akalp, Nadia Akalp, Akalp, at corpnet.com. Again, that's Nadia Akalp at corpnet.com. And she is one of our business filings experts that can assist you in helping set up your company in any of the 50 states. And if you already have a corporation or LLC, she can also help you in keeping that corporation or LLC in compliance in all 50 states.
Okay, that is a first, Nellie. When you can say, so I had part of my software business. I had my mom was our salesperson for a very long time. And it was, I say sales, it was just incoming emails. But this is the first to say, here's my daughter's email address. She's awesome. Go. That is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really honored to have my daughter work for me because in this day and age, I'm one of those parents who really likes to equip my kids with courage, compassion, connection to kind of go out and seek what they want. And her passion was just, I guess it's genetic, I don't know, but she's really passionate about actually taking my position as the CEO of the company. I said, well, that's going to take some time. Why don't we start here? And she's just killing it. And she's very, very personable, very knowledgeable. And she can definitely help when it comes to helping any of you start a corporation or an LLC in any of the 50 states.
Fantastic. So one last question and we'll wrap this up again. We know you're super busy and we thank you. And we're going to be asking you to come back because phenomenal presentation.
Thank you.
You've been in business for a very, very long time and you see a lot of mistakes, I'm sure. One thing I see over and over is when you kind of started out and you talked about sole proprietorship, but thinking I can just do these things without getting legal, and it's not just legal too, as you mentioned, it's protection from your own assets. But are there some, as you think about people that are thinking they're budding entrepreneurs, or in our case, private practice, clinicians, some of those mistakes you see people making when they're getting their business started, and this can go outside of legal. I'm just curious, as an entrepreneur, a very accomplished entrepreneur yourself, mistakes you've seen budding business owners make over the years.
So first and foremost mistake I see a lot of entrepreneurs making is they're not really taking the steps to research, for example, that business name that they want to choose for their business entity. And all of a sudden they get a demand letter from some other business entity that says, hey, you're violating my name, you're violating my trade name. So it's really, really important to check that business name before you start conducting business under that name, because it's all that time you wasted on, printing out business cards, letterheads, whatever, can really go to waste if you don't take the proper steps and do your due diligence to check that name for availability. Next big mistake we see is for those professionals who, are ready to incorporate or form an LLC, they typically go after those, hyped up, incorporate in Delaware, incorporate in Wyoming, incorporate in Nevada. And this is really a myth, and it's going to really bite people in the behind if they don't incorporate in their home state. Because although Delaware, Nevada, and Wyoming are really, business friendly states to incorporate in, if you're not located in that business, in that state, if you're not operating within that state, if you don't have employees within that state, you're subjecting yourself to multiple states filing fees and state laws. So really at the end of the day is, if you're considering incorporating or forming an LLC, incorporate in your home state where the business is located. Lastly, another big issue we see is once they've incorporated or formed an LLC, failing to keep that corporation or LLC in compliance throughout the lifetime of the LLC. So not, properly aligning themselves with a compliance service such as our company that can keep their corporation or LLC in compliance, because by incorporating or forming an LLC, you want to maintain that corporate shield, you want to maintain that corporate veil. And by failing to keep that corporation or LLC in compliance, you're likely going to lose that corporate veil, that corporate shield, which in essence, you're going to lose protection. And ultimately, if your corporation or LLC is not in compliance, the state that you're incorporated or formed in as an LLC is going to put your LLC in bad standing. And ultimately, that corporation or LLC will become administratively dissolved by that state.
Gotcha. Good to know. Good to know for sure. Which is why your compliance check, your free compliance check is so critical. Absolutely.
Yes. And it's easy. I mean, literally, how hard is it? Go to our website, go to our compliance portal. Literally, it's 3 to 4 questions that you have to answer. And then we start monitoring your company, and we'll even give you a courtesy call to let you know when it's due, like, hey, your corporation is coming up due for its annual report or its annual meeting minutes. And you either tell us, hey, you can take care of this for me, or you'll do it on your own, and we'll dismiss the alert for you for that year. So really great service, free of charge, and something that I feel anybody should participate in.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so one final question, and then we'll let you go. And thank you so much on this Friday afternoon.
Of course.
So sometimes a therapist will relocate from another state. I actually talked to a couple, and there are licensure things for them that they have to deal with too.
Correct.
But let's say you started a private practice in Oklahoma, you moved to Texas.
Yes.
Now the licensure, they're figuring that out. But from the incorporation, what's a best practice for that?
Great question. So 2 options here. One is called redomiciling, also referred to as redomestication. Okay. A redomestication or a redomicile is basically where a corporation or LLC is formed in one state, and they don't really want to lose the tenureship of that corporation or LLC, and they want to keep the longevity of that corporation or LLC that they started out with in that original home state. Okay. If the state that they're moving into offers a redomestication, that's their best option to redomesticate, meaning converting out of one state and converting into the other state. Okay. If the state doesn't offer redomestication, basically what that a business owner that's formed as a corporation or LLC has to do is they'll need to dissolve that corporation or LLC in their home state and form that corporation or LLC into the new state. Now, there is a third option. Let's say that business owner is still wanting to practice in that home state and they want to maintain their licensure in that home state. The third option is they can keep that business entity in that original home state and foreign qualify that corporation into the new state and expand into the new state or multiple states. So lots of different variances as to how this can be done. And again, we offer all these types of services at CorpNet. Let's say, for example, your practice is growing and you're hiring additional counselors and professionals to work under you, or you now have a receptionist or someone as an administrative assistant that you want to place on payroll. Well, by paying people on payroll, you have to register for a payroll tax reg number, employer tax reg number. We can also assist you with those services as well in all 50 states. So we are a one-stop A to Z business filing service that provides services in all 50 states to you.
That is fantastic. Anybody, an entrepreneur out there, not just clinician, therapist, CorpNet's fantastic. I've got friends that have worked with you, Nellie, and CorpNet for years, and amazing services. You've really fleshed out the whole suite.
Thank you.
Well, Nellie, thank you so much. And one, too, I meant to mention this. Thank you for sharing that you're also in recovery and your passion for mental health. And then finally, just thank you for your time today and sharing your expertise.
Of course. It's been a pleasure to present to all of you. I am very grateful and honored to be here, Cory. And again, post your questions in the chat box because Cory and I are going to design a series of webinars to come back at you and come back to you with more and more education. Again, this is my passion. My passion really, other than being an entrepreneur, is really to teach and blaze and really help you as an entrepreneur grow as a professional and helping you grow your business. So really, really, really humbled to be here and to be presenting to all of you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, Nellie, have a great weekend. And thank you again. We'll be talking about that series because I can't wait to do that. I know our clinicians in the community are ready for that. Thank you, everybody, too. Have a great Friday, and we'll see you all next time.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.